Hello and welcome to the Squeaky Bum Time podcast, presented exclusively by the Chop Sports channel of the premier streaming network. We're recording this on Monday, February 27th. I am your host, Laurent Courtines. In this episode, Manchester United win their first trophy under Ten Hag. Chelsea continue to sputter, and the Liverpool revolution reaches the terror portion. But first, football, media, the idea of money, winning, and all the rest of it. I want to get to that. But first, house cleaning. If you're new to the show, my name's Laurent Courtines. I record this show regularly. Please like, subscribe, and share the show. It means everything to us. If you like, we're on social media. We're on YouTube. We're on WhatsApp. Wherever you find the show, please, please, please like, share, and subscribe. Now, let's get to it. Okay. The football this weekend, I didn't really love. I thought it was a little bit weak and a little bit odd. And I wanted to take a little bit of a moment here to just discuss some of the weird stuff that goes on with football in terms of money and who's allowed to win, the politics of glory. I think this weekend with the EFL Cup final of Newcastle and Manchester United, we have two ends of the spectrum. We have the venerable Manchester United earning its trophy, made money because it got big in a moment in the 60s with George Best in color. You have winning the European Cup in 1968. You have Manchester, the home of football, and then you have Liverpool. And this is an aristocratic club within football. And however they make their money, they're allowed to. The way United are dealt with is different than other clubs. They are grandfathered in, if you will. Regardless, there is a sense of ickiness under the Glazers, not because they're bad or United are ill-begotten, but because they take profit from the team. There is a constant struggle within this term called modern football of commerce for commerce's sake, of football being a commercial enterprise designed to make money. It is not a great business. You can find this out in a million places, but it is a good business in terms of its power, its meaning, and what it does, right? Like for an owner, you're not investing in Manchester United to get rich, but you're investing in Manchester United to get favor and power within its ecosystem of being, I own Manchester United. If you're doing it for the money, you're a fool. So you have Manchester United on one side and you have Newcastle on the other, a club that is large within the context of England because of where it is. It's isolated in the Northeast. And when it came to prominence, and football came to prominence, it was the only big club in the North when the league began, and it holds a place in people's hearts around what it means and what it is. So Newcastle and United represent these two sides of football, and now Newcastle has now been bought by the Sovereign Wealth Fund of Saudi Arabia, the PIF. I'm not sure what that stands for. But we have this conflict. And one of the things that I think about is like, who's allowed to be rich? Who's allowed to be wealthy? Who's allowed to partake in the power of football? There's a constant struggle, and it's different in every country, around what is an okay way to win and who's allowed to get money and who's not allowed to get money, and whether yours are ill-begotten or ours are ill-begotten. And then there's this concept of modern football, which is essentially the idea of commercialism versus pre-modern football or traditional football, where it's for the working class and it's about your old stadium, dad, smoke, piss, beer, no women, violence. I don't know when this period of pre-modern football is better. I'm not sure. I guess as an American coming into it, for the folks who are out of the UK, especially the Fan Hub folks, How do you reconcile these two pieces of football, the commerce mixed with the tradition? And how do you square the idea of glory, meaning you need to spend money and win and buy players for the positions that are weak, and where does that money come from? And the idea of, oh, my owner is this sovereign wealth fund or billionaire who maybe is a hedge fund manager or is a leverage buyout guy who destroys companies, puts them back together, sells them on so he can buy a football club. Like, why is one version of capitalism less worse than the other one? Now, I'm wearing this as a City hat. I'm wearing this as an American with a Keith Haring shirt. All these things all add up together, but I'm so fascinated by it. And I wonder what it all means, especially in the context of this amazing game that just happened that we'll go to right now. So love to hear everyone's thoughts about their feeling about wealth and money and football and what it all means. It's all so bizarre how you get different feelings about it. So anyway, let us go to the actual EFL Cup trophy event. A great event for the Newcastle fans who got to see their club in a final, which is great. Newcastle have only been, I think, in 5 finals in 60 years, and they get a day out in Wembley. The numbers are out. There were about 120,000 people who came from the Northeast, or at least are of Geordie descent. I don't know how that works. You know, England is so regional. There's an actual accent for the people from that city, and they're called Geordies. Interesting. I don't know what it means. And this game started out okay for Newcastle. They looked good. Loris Karius was not a problem. That was the first narrative that came through, which was, oh, can Karius bounce back after 2 years? The problems he had in the Champions League final in 2017-18 when he got concussed by Sergio Ramos and then stayed in the game and, of course, gave up goals. Early on in this game, I thought it was pretty even for the first 5 to 10 minutes. Looked like, you know, both teams are in it. And then on the half-hour mark, on an amazing cross by Shaw, I will say Bruno Guimaraes giving away the foul outside the box to Shaw was a bit of it like, yo, dude, what are you doing? That's dangerous. And boom, there's the cross from Shaw onto Casemiro's head. It could only be Casemiro, who's been the catalyst for United's season. And then a few minutes later, Rashford scored as well, assisted by Weghorst, which was nice. It was nice to see Weghorst. He's kind of this weird mascot of the team now for United. And really, once it was 2-0, it really was over. Second half, Newcastle really didn't do much. And we now have this new sort of defensive triangle of De Gea, Lisandro Martinez, Varane, and Casemiro, who just stop everything at source at this point, where this was such a controlled performance by United. And I'll ask United fans, have you seen this before? I mean, United have historically, especially over the last few years, and while they're in the wilderness, been unable to control games. And this game was control. I think Ten Hag really showed, you know what? I want to win this game. I'm not messing about. Took out Dalot at halftime. On comes Wan-Bissaka. Sabitzer for Fred. McTominay for Weghorst on 70. So it's like, we're not messing around. We're going for the win. Isak came on for Longstaff for Newcastle. I mean, Callum Wilson really did nothing. You know, it just wasn't there for them. But I think this is more about United, more about Ten Hag. He's just a good fucking coach. And I hate it because United they're there. They've got the juice. The machine is rolling. Guys who were in the wilderness are now back. Like, Wan-Bissaka was out of this club and he's back. I thought losing Eriksen would be a catastrophe, but no, Fred's in there with Casemiro playing the role, and they've changed the way they play. They have ways to play now. They have an offensive group with Dalot. They've unlocked Shaw, who, by the way, side note, Jose Mourinho, you're a fucking asshole. Luke Shaw has been if not the best defender both ways, attacking and defending fullback that United has had for at least 5 or 6 years. He's an incredible player. He's been great. And he played center back for you guys. Like, give respect to Luke Shaw. Been a great United player. And now he has his first trophy. So as much as as a City fan, I want United to burn it to the ground. I'm also can take my City hat off and go, for a lot of guys that have made the commitment to United and had it been really bad under Mourinho and under Rangnick and under Ole and all these coaches that have come in and lost seasons. I think of Fred and De Gea, who's been here a long time. Fernandez, who was like, what am I coming into? Rashford, who's come up with the team. Dalot, who's been here for a while. Luke Shaw, Lindelof, these guys, Maguire, just taking so much shit. For all of them to be able to have their first trophy, I think it's nice. You could see there was a relief, there was a joy that came through United, and that's fair play to them and good for them. And I'm not a fucking complete sociopathic asshole. They deserved it. They won. For the Newcastle side, this is all gravy. I think that they're a year early. It seems like they're pressing and attacking ways of getting turnovers and turning teams over and scoring that way, and their impregnable defense is kind of missing when it doesn't have Pope. The goal from Rashford was on a deflection by Shaw or Botman, I'm not sure, that went over Karius. So he wasn't at fault. It was just kind of flicked over. Trippier was fantastic. Dan Burn was fantastic. Their group was fantastic. They're just not able to find another gear, right? They've done as good as they can. They've pushed themselves into a final. For Newcastle, this is the beginning. They haven't done the splashy Robinho buy. They've spent a bunch. Isak was a big spend, but they're not really ready for these moments yet. The one thing I really love about football is you've got to suffer. And this is the first moment that Newcastle are suffering. In terms of this new group, like the fans have suffered under Mike Ashley, I understand that. And that's why there was such exuberance. One of the great things was the Geordies just not leaving. They're down 2-0. They're not creating anything. Martinez, Varane, and Casemiro are snuffing out everything that they bring. And the Geordies stayed till the end. They've got the 300, 400 mile trip back home. And they cheered their team until the end. And so no one can begrudge Newcastle for this moment. They just need another shot, and they're going to start rolling the dice, right? Every year, there's going to be 3 trophies that are up for grabs, if not 4, 1 Europe and 3 league, two cup competitions in the league, 4 trophies for 20 teams in England every year. Well, I mean, technically the FA Cup and the AFL Cup can go to more teams, but 20 teams competing for those trophies. And I think Newcastle will be one of them. And so this is a first step. Nice for Eddie Howe. He'd never been in a final. I mean, yes, he'd won promotion in lower divisions, but he hasn't won anything before. So this is a big moment for him. And I'm happy for them, and I really enjoyed that. So that's our first trophy of the year. Of course, narrative is now United on for a treble. But hold your fucking horses, United. You're not winning a treble. You're not winning the league. You could win the Europa League. You might win the FA Cup. Take it easy. You're not winning the league. You're not doing anything of the sort. United will put this in their pocket and hopefully they kick on. This is very reminiscent of Mourinho, whose first season in the league won the EFL Cup, and Pep, whose first season in the league, who won the EFL Cup. It's this new thing when you're a foreign manager in charge of a big team to win, because it's there and no other country has it. It's a weird thing that only England has. So bizarre. So we move on to the actual football league, and we have to go to the sorry state of Chelsea. I mean, I don't even know what to say anymore. This game was just brutal and boring and didn't really have much going for it. More from Chelsea. Still Havertz, Raheem Sterling back in the side, Ziyech, who was supposed to be sold, Felix and his Karate Kid haircut, along with Loftus-Cheek and Ruben Fernandez. Koulibaly came back in. He's been terrible. I don't even know why he plays. Silva started and went off. along with Reece James and Ben Chilwell, which you'd expect something to be created along with Kepa. Still not much coming from Chelsea. First half, pretty even. Chelsea had the first 3 shots. Kane didn't, only one on target in the first half, but Chelsea had 4 shots to Tottenham's 3. They had a little bit more of the value of those shots. So João Felix probably had the best chance on a ball over the top from Kai Havertz, who laid it off to him. So not much there. So first half, very normal, very Spursy. The only talking point really was the sort of fight late in the second half. There was some confusion late in the second half. Hakim Ziyech hacks down Richarlison. Havertz hacks down Richarlison. Ziyech is up in his face. Richarlison pops up, pushes Ziyech. There's a card shown to Havertz. Then there's a little bit of a kerfuffle. Emerson Royale comes and barges Ziyech in the back. And then Ziyech mushes him in the face neck. The Ziyech hand to the face of Royale gets him a straight red after some review, after some fighting. The thing that was weird was you couldn't tell if Ziyech had gotten a yellow and then it got changed to a red. So he had gotten nothing. The Havertz had gotten the yellow, and then they repealed Ziyech's red for a yellow. It was a hand to a face. It was a little bit tricky. You've seen them given on the call. Graham Lasso was just like, this has to be a straight red. It was a hand to a face. It's a red. Okay, whatever. Chelsea get away with it. They should feel happy that they got away with it. They go in at halftime 0-0. No problem. Ho, come out. Let's go play. That's not what happens. Spurs, one of the better second half teams in the league. I believe they're -6 in the first half, +14 in the second. So nerds, get your nerd ruler out. We're going to start talking XG. The XG for this game was really low. On a bad clearance, on a shot. Sorry. So the goal comes from Skip. It's on a shot by Emerson that's saved, that bounces around. Fernandez clears it towards... Sorry. Kepa doesn't grab it. He saves it, and it kind of dribbles off him. Fernandez, thinking he's helping him out, clears it, but he clears it directly to João Felix, who doesn't come up with it, and then it's passed into Skip, and he smashes it home for a really good goal, but just a .02 XG goal, so not one you'd expect. Kepa got his hand on it, then not so much, and then late in the game, on 82, Harry Kane finishes off Chelsea. Now, what are Chelsea doing? Chelsea don't create anything. Chelsea don't create anything. They just don't. They just don't create enough good chances. And that's why whenever you hear someone say, and it's really annoying, they need a striker, they need a striker, they need a striker. No, they don't. They have all the strikers in the world. They have guys who can finish. They're all over the place. They're no different than what City were without Aguero, okay? They have as good players, okay? They don't create enough out of the midfield. None of those players plays balls in behind. None. That's been Chelsea's problem for 3 years. They never replaced the creativity that Hazard gave them on the wing. Hazard was a one-man destructive crew. Yes, I know they won the Champions League. They won that Champions League by hook or by crook, by people contributing. But in terms of a regular offensive creator who made things go, they were getting it by committee. They do not have that player who can create opportunities all the time. I think under Tuchel, it looked like Reece James, and then you'd see it from Chilwell, but they've been unreliable, and the team has not been reliably able to create enough opportunities for their less than ideal plus XG strikers. When I say plus XG strikers, I mean they score more than you would expect. They don't have anything that they'd score more than you would expect. Right now, Chelsea are way in a negative. In the last 14 games, they've generated, I believe the number is 17 expected goals and only scored 6. That is bad. Either they're not getting good opportunities or they're not getting enough opportunities, and the ones they are getting, they're pressing and not scoring. So Chelsea have not scored at all. They are awful. They've scored 6 goals in their last 14 games. Something crazy number like that. And that's on Graham Potter. You guys know how I feel about him. I've been covering this over and over again. Potter, he's not doing enough. He's not doing enough. I was listening to the Totally Football show, and Sasha Gurianov, a writer for The Guardian, Polish guy, but lives in England. He said something to the effect of, Potter is a normal, nice guy, and Chelsea can't have normal managers. It's not a club for a normal person. You've got to be a little crazy, a little irrational, and a little bit weird to be the modern Chelsea manager. By modern, I mean since 2003, right? First, you had Ranieri. Let's even go further back. The Renaissance comes under Gianluca Vialli, a larger-than-life personality. Then you have Hullet, who's also a larger-than-life personality. Then you go on to Ranieri, who's got a little bit bada bing, bada boom personality. Then it's on to Mourinho and Huddink and Avram Grant and Ancelotti and all these people that are bigger than life personalities, especially Mourinho, especially Tuchel, especially Conte. These are irrational people, madmen, people who believe and are irrational. They're not normal. And I think Potter is more of a traditional British bureaucrat. He's tut, we follow the directions. We have the manual. We've written it up. This is how we're going to play. And I don't think that works at Chelsea. That might be the problem. It might be that he doesn't have enough oomph behind his words, and the team is not responding to it. Again, this is one of these things that I really love about English football and football in general is the institutions hold knowledge. You can't be a Real Madrid manager without cojones. Manchester United, there is a United way that no one can describe, but there is a way, right? And somehow Ole was doing it, Mourinho wasn't, Conte isn't right for United, but Ten Hag is. I don't know what it means, but apparently Gary Neville can tell me, but I got it when he was saying it. So Chelsea have a way, and I don't think Graham Potter is that way yet. He may be there long enough to change the institution, but I think right now Chelsea's institutional juice is firing managers, defensive first, and really about results. And he's not delivering that. I don't want to give shirt shift to Spurs. This is a big London derby. This is a big deal for Spurs. They have a tremendously hard time against Chelsea historically. Although they have won, actually, Chelsea have won the last 3. Chelsea have dominated this thing. Chelsea had won until this last one. Chelsea had won 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 in a row with a draw. So the last 11 matches, Chelsea had been 9-1-1. Not great. So the last time Spurs beat Chelsea in the league was 2018. And I'm sure Mike would know exactly which day that was and where it was and how it happened. So what an amazing feat for Spurs. A big day for them to win and get the victory. This is about Harry Kane standing alone in goals for the club. Same stuff. Son coming off the bench. The coach, what's his name? I'm going to get it here. Not Antonio Conte, but his his understudy is driving the team forward. I think they're getting weirdly like a new manager bounce without changing their manager. So they've won 3 or 4 on a trot and are playing well. And, they're in the top 4 fight because I think Spurs is slipping and there's a little bit of a gap between them. And so we see what happens there. We move on to the revolution that is not in its best period. Liverpool draw 0-0 at Patrick Vieira's Crystal Palace. What a terrible game this was. Just boring shit football. I mean, just not great. Not great. Not much to talk about here. I think the interesting thing was Klopp just going Milner, Henderson, Keita in the midfield. The back four was the traditional Klopp back four with TAA, Matip, Van Dijk, and Robertson. But up front, it was Gakpo and Salah and Jota. So everything was normal except the midfield. It was like let's not have any creativity in this midfield and not really even have the legs. So it didn't get anything out of the first half. Really not much going on. Still some mistakes here and there. Salah took the first shot of the game, and they did create most of the initial items. There was one, Mateta was really close, hit the bar, had a couple shots off the woodwork, especially late in the first half on a turnover by Trent Alexander-Arnold. There was never really a moment here for Liverpool, a couple half chances here or there. Vieira was really happy with this draw, 0-0. The revolution is now in the terror period for Klopp and Liverpool. They just have to accept that this is where they are. After the 5-2 against Real Madrid, you'd hope there was a bigger reaction, but there wasn't. And I think, Manny and BJ and Alex and the rest of the Liverpool boys, you're just going to have to accept that this is where your team is. This was a mid-table, drab, 0-0 draw. And I'm not sure where Liverpool goes from here. I think it's really about consolidation, making sure you know who's who, and accepting that some version of Liverpool doesn't exist anymore and is gone, and now you have a new one. On the Palace side, they're still sputtering. They haven't won a game, and I mean, it feels like ages at this point for Crystal Palace. Let me just look. The last time they won a game, Crystal Palace was, I don't think they've won this year yet. So I'm just going to checking right now, clicking through. You're hearing me click. We'll get to it in a second. Come on, give me my information. I'm pretty sure they haven't won this year. They're on like 5 draws in a row or something ridiculous like that for Palace. And I think that they missed the drive of Gallagher, who's now, I think, been found out a little bit at Chelsea. He just kind of is a runner. But they still need a striker. They still don't have Zaha. They're not really finding. Oh, I had clicked it. Yeah. So yeah. Their last win literally was on New Year's Eve, 2-0 away to Bournemouth. Then they lost 3 in a row, and they have drawn 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of their last 6. So they're picking up points. They're not getting in the relegation zone, but just remember, 3 draws equals 1 win. I know that sounds stupid, but I think I would have rather had 2 wins and 4 losses than these 5 draws. I know that sounds crazy, but the points are more valuable. You want to get your sabermetrics here? A draw is only worth 1. A win is worth 3. Don't play for draws. Go for the win. So maybe Vieira's thinking about the Invincibles, how they drew their way to immortality, but that team drew 14 times. Maybe Vieira took a little bit of that from his boy Wenger, and he's just like, well, I haven't lost. We haven't won either. So let's go get a win. They're just not scoring. They haven't had Zaha. I still like them. I still like their crowd. I still love Vieira being a Caribbean Frenchman, and his team is all players of African descent. It just goes to show the value of representation, right? Like if you have more African descent managers, you're going to have more African players in your league. Just makes sense. People pick people who they look like. I love it. It makes me so happy that team represents its neighborhood because Croydon is an immigrant area, an African descent area in South London. It's not really London. Croydon's a little bit outside of the bounds, but still cool. I still love it. I think it's so cool whenever I see it. And then I think of Jakeem Anderson just being back there, him and Goita just being like, yo, we're with the boys. We're making it happen. But yeah, Palace. Can you just get a win, please? On to the top of the league, both Arsenal and Manchester City. Arsenal's game was a 1-0 against Leicester, and they controlled this game from end to end. Just, they gave up nothing. And I say nothing. The XG was 0 for Leicester. They had one shot and it wasn't on target. They just couldn't create anything. And Arsenal just completely controlled this game. They get a goal in the second half from Martinelli. Good stuff. They had a goal disallowed. Trossard plays false nine. Otherwise, everything is the same. Just no Nketiah, Trossard playing in the false nine. I mean, Nketiah comes on later. But yeah, this was an easy game for Arsenal. Controlled, professional, strong, not a problem. They got their goal. They got to sing 1-0 to the Arsenal. And I mean, when I say that Leicester were abject, they were abject. Only one shot creating action the whole game. Just nothing. They had one shot from Dewsbury Hall, and that was it. So, I mean, not a great game to watch. And that shot came from Dewsbury Hall on the 72nd minute. And then there wasn't another shot in the game from 72 on. So Arsenal just bossed this game. They check another box. For Arsenal, where they are now is every week that they can tick over the schedule becomes less and less points for other teams to catch up to them. So they look like champions. They had their blip. City had their shot and lost that stupid game that we lost, the 1-0. And that's just where it is right now. Manchester City will have to take this title from Arsenal, still staying 5 points behind, still working their way around. For Leicester, I do have to say, it's not a shock that James Maddison didn't play. When James Maddison doesn't play, Leicester don't win. They don't create anything. They have nothing. I'm not sure if that's an indictment on Brendan Rodgers or whatever, but it's pretty sad to see Leicester, a team that I think most of us had some juice into, just kind of sputter and kind of float through games. This was a really bad home performance. Anyone who's a Fox fan should be fucking angry. This is at home, at the King Power. You do nothing. That stadium used to be loud and weird and have the clappers, and now they have the clap. Now, respect to Arsenal. They get where they need to go. My boys play against Bournemouth. Manchester City just kill. They just kill Bournemouth. I had been talking a lot of positivity about Gary O'Neill, but this was pathetic. City just go in there. Alvarez on 15, Holland on 29, Foden on 45, and then an own goal by Mepham. Just really bad. There was no fight. There was no energy. This game was flat. The second half was laughable, although Bournemouth did get a goal, but that was only after City basically pulled all their players on 60. Phillips came in on 55. Sergio Gomez for Ilkay Gundogan. Basically, they called off the dogs. And from there, it just was kind of normal. I mean, we even had a Maximo Perón sighting, the 17-year-old from Argentina. He's 20. This is his first appearance for Manchester City at 19 years old. He was playing earlier this year in Argentina. And so he gets some burn for City just out of the blue. So yes, they do get a goal. And that'll be the only downside to this was Bournemouth getting a goal and City not getting a clean sheet. But this is nice for City to get extra goals, to do some damage, to really be where they are. The other one to call out, Phil Foden was fantastic in this game. A goal and an assist, 11 shot creating actions, just terrorizing. And it's good for City to have more players rounding into form. City are at their best when they are relentless. When one group of players starts, they're not there, another one comes on and changes the game. And that is when they are most dangerous, right? When it's not just waiting for De Bruyne, but there's a constant chain of there's no breathing. You're under the cosh and under attack all the time, and City aren't slow. So having Foden and Grealish and Mahrez and all of the winger combinations getting together and Alvarez scoring goals just gets the machine going again. And so hopefully City have played well over the last 3 games. 2 of them were draws, and then one win here. So the Nottingham Forest game, Nottingham were battered. The Red Bull game, City completely dominated the first half, just weren't able to finish chances. Second half, they tired, and I talked about it the last show, but then in this one, the goals went in. So the shots went in, and that's what happens with City. They always have the same process, and it looks bad when the shots don't go in. But when the shots go in, all of a sudden, they've still created 10 shots, 5 on target, and just brush Bournemouth aside. For Bournemouth, these games, City can be got at. And if you play this passive and you lose, you kind of feel like a dick for not trying harder. So they went 5-4-1, never really came out, never really tried. I guess for Bournemouth, these aren't the games that they're going to try and stay up to win, but it's disappointing to see Bournemouth be this bad and this poor in this game. I still think they're in the relegation zone. Seriously. And for City, we're still there, still ticking points forward. So, we've got to get our machine going for the destruction of Arsenal. This is a moment, though. Arsenal do play their game in hand on Wednesday against Everton. They lost this game in the reverse fixture, but now this is at the Emirates. Everton coming off a poor result. We're going to go through the relegation battle. Everton lose to Aston Villa. They don't really do much. Really nice goal from Emi Buendia late. Ollie Watkins converts a penalty that Idrissa Gana Gueye takes down McGinn. Onana had a really good chance early, hit it right off Martinez. So, they're still looking for goals, Everton. They just don't have any in the side. My friend and your be careful of your wives friend, Mr. Neil Maupay, just has not scored 1 goal all year. Just doesn't do enough for this team. Dwight McNeil kept trying to create shots. Neil Maupay took a bunch. McNeil created 8, took 2. Onana, Doucouré, everyone tried, but they just don't have enough oomph again up front to get those goals. They're trying to get that 1 goal, Everton, and then they'll lock it down. But in this case, Watkins on 63 converts the penalty, and then Buendia on a hammer shot from McGinn gets it done. And, the Unai Emery revolution, we knew it. We knew it was going to happen. Aston Villa tick on, move on. They're getting some consistency of the lineup. Konza, Mings, Cash. They get McGinn back. Luca Dean is back. They have Watkins on 5 games in a row, setting the record for Aston Villa goals scored in consecutive games, 5 in a row. We've always liked Watkins. He's a hard worker. He's a good striker. I think before Jesus went to Arsenal, I thought that Watkins might be the player that they go after, but maybe he's not top 6 quality. But I really like Watkins. He's in that Callum Wilson, Watkins, Dominic Calvert-Lewin. These are professional Premier League level scorers but just not quite Champions League level scorers. So maybe on good teams they can show up, but Aston Villa get it done. And then the Tricky Trees, our friends from Forest, have one of their shittiest second halves. Second half, this game is cruising along, looks very West Ham-y. West Ham are attacking and look good, and they're hanging in there. First half, nothing really goes on, pretty quiet. It's mostly West Ham, but then in the second half, Danny Ings had a really good chance in the first half, but off target on a 0.3 shot, just seemed to scuff it. But then second half, the floodgates open and we find Old Forest. Ings on 70, Ings on 73, Rice on 68, and then Mikel Antonio to finish it off on 85. They just put 4 past Forest, 1, 2, 3, 4, all late in the second half. Forest just had no answer. They still can't score on the road. They still can't win on the road. Forest on the road, away from home, are just not the same. And David Moyes was genuinely pleased. I think he really was on the schneid and really in trouble. It doesn't make any sense. I keep telling you, this West Ham team is too good to go down. They're too good to go down. What they need to do is attack. This defensive mindset that they have doesn't suit them. They're too good to be this bad. Bowen really pulling the strings in this game, creating the most shots on the team of the front players, but they're getting it from everywhere. Paqueta and Bowen both creating chances along with Declan Rice. Just feels like they may have gotten off the schneid, and maybe West Ham can start putting things together and getting out of the relegation zone. Our other friends in the relegation zone, Leeds and Javi Gracia, take on Southampton at home, get the win. Thank God. Leeds needed this badly. Off a corner, Junior Firpo just glides in, and then my friend, Mr. Bazuna, just completely misses the save. This is why they're going down. Bazuna misses a fucking save that he should have saved, and he completely doesn't. This was up and down all over the place, but Bazuna just really yaks the shot that Firpo puts in his first goal in the Premier League. He's over the moon. But the thing that was different about this was once Leeds got their goal, they shut it down. They took Bamford off. They brought Raka on. They took, they really shifted it out and tried to see the game out and didn't fuck about trying to find more goals. They sat deep. They knew that Southampton couldn't really create anymore. And once they got their goal, they basically stopped attacking and were like, okay, we got this. We're done. Let's see this thing out. And then Southampton didn't create anything. So they get their bump, Southampton, but then they lose again. Ruben Celis is now permanent manager of Southampton. Had a weird interview in the end. I don't know where we want to go with that. All right. This was a weird schedule, not a normal schedule because of the League Cup final and we missed some games. So just to recap, there were only a handful of games. Leeds defeat Southampton. West Ham defeat Forest 4-0. Everton lose at home to Villa 0-2. Leicester gets destroyed by Arsenal in a 1-0 by doing nothing. Then City go to Bournemouth, win 4-1. Palace 0-0, holding the Revolution to its terrible period. And then Tottenham get their first win in 10 against Chelsea 2-0. But we have upcoming matches. Wowie wow. Arsenal on Wednesday at home play Everton. That's a makeup game. If they win that game, they will go 5 points clear. They currently have a 2-point lead on Manchester City with a game in hand. And Wolves come to Liverpool. This last time they met, Wolves won 3-0. That was a terrible performance by Liverpool. These are the games, if they want to finish in the top 4, Liverpool must defeat Wolves at home. Must. Anything less than 3 points is catastrophic. And then we go into the rest of the week. I believe that that's all I have. And I will end the show now. That was the Squeaky Bum Time podcast with your host, Laurent Courtines. We are the football wing of the Chop Sports channel and presented exclusively by the Premier Streaming Network. We record on Mondays and Thursdays, so be sure to subscribe wherever you get your podcast so you never miss an episode. And if you're listening on Apple, please rate and review the show. It means everything to us. Thank you.